was listening to Joe Rogan and President Donald Trump. And in that conversation, I was able to pick up what the keys to their success is, right? Joe Rogan in particular, and even President Trump. The first thing that I noticed is they absolutely love what they do.
First of all, you love UFC.
I love it, yeah.
You love the fights. I mean, I watch
yeah.
you are loving it. They could pay you nothing. It'd be very...
They didn't pay me anything for the first 13 shows. I did it for free because they were hemorrhaging money. And I became friends with Dana, and my position was, you're going to give me the best seat in the house. I get to sit cage side for the fights. I'll do it, and I wanted to help. I was like, I think these are the guys that we had always hoped for. In the early days of the sport, I started working for the company in 1997. I was before the UFC was purchased by Zuffa, which Dana worked for.
Wow.
So I was a part of the previous owners. And I only did it for a couple of years. It was just too much, and I was losing money. And it was banned from cable because of Budweiser and John McCain, and you could only get it on DirecTV.
For you to succeed in any field of endeavor, you've got to love what you do. That's the first key to success. I mean, Joe Rogan talks about the fact that he worked for almost 2 years, did a lot of shows without even getting paid. And he says he views it as if they were giving him the best seat in the house to call these particular fights, even though he was not making money. So he was doing it even when he was not getting paid. When you look at the Joe Rogan podcast, he actually went for a lot of years without making money from the podcast, but because he loves it, he kept creating the content, he kept showing up, he kept inviting guests until where he is now, right? Double 200 million deals with Spotify. So loving what you do is what's going to keep you going even in the hard times. When you look at President Trump, whether you love him or hate him, you've got to admit that he loves America. And he puts America first. Now that sometimes, gets to me, right? I live in South Africa. I'm a South African. And I just admire the way he loves his country, the way he puts his country first. And I think that's how all leaders need to behave, right? You put your country first, you put your people first, the rest can follow, right? I love the way that he talks about tariffs. It's going to affect the rest of the world. But as long as his country and his people are good, he does not care. So, he would not have survived all the media attacks. He would not have survived the assassination attempts if he did not love it. Got shot, got up, and said, fight, and is continuing. So, you've got to love what you do. That's the first thing that I picked up from this particular point. The second thing that I picked up, which is an important factor towards being successful at what you do, is, let me start with Joe Rogan. He's a UFC commentator. He's a stand-up comedian. He loves to talk, right? He loves to learn and invite all these people.
What you've done here is amazing. Where would you be if you didn't do the UFC stuff? Would you have this show, do you think?
Yeah, I would still be doing it for sure. Yeah.
Would it be at the same level?
I don't know.
But you would have
It's hard to know. I think, one of the things that works for this show, I guess, is that I'm involved in so many different things. Stand-up comedy, UFC, and all the interests that I have that lead to the podcast.
So all his interests culminate into what the podcast is. So he's able to draw from different walks of life, from his different interests, and combine all those things into one. And you see it with the podcast, right? He has UFC fighters that he interviews. He's got all types of interesting guests showing his love for learning. And he loves stand-up comedy. There's a lot of stand-up comedians that go to his podcast. So for you to succeed, you need to bring the different things that make you, the different passions that you have. You need to bring them on the table and use them. Just use them. Just, be you. Be authentically yourself. Bring your interests and let people see you for who you are. When you look at President Trump, there's a lot of things that make him interesting, right? His comedic timing is one thing, right? Dude is funny, right? I was laughing all throughout the interview. The way that he calls people's names, the way that he gives them nicknames. Now, that's offensive to some people, but you've got to admit it's funny, right? And he loves business. He loves making deals. So he's a businessman. He's not a comedian, but he's got comedic timing. He's got good comedic timing. And that works to his favor. That's why he does well with speaking. That's why he does well when there are crowds around. He knows how to work a room. So he's able to bring all these things that make him unique into one thing. So what I'm learning, right, because, this is a video about what I learned and what I think you can pick up as well. What I'm learning is the fact that when you love what you do and when you show up authentically as yourself with all the different interests that you have, that is a formula for success. That is a formula for serious success. Guys, let me know what you think. What do you pick up from the podcast? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let's have a discussion on the comments below. Cheers, guys. Let's get work done. Let's get work done. See you next time.